Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very special session of Trends News Talks. I am Renato Grau, and I will be here with you today for a session that was recorded in Austin during South by Southwest Festival, where I had the incredible opportunity to meet Neil Redding. Neil is a very famous keynote speaker, author, and also an innovation architect. He runs a consultancy that is called Reading Futures that works with spatial computing and emerging technologies aligned with business. Neil also presents himself as a near futurist. Neil, can you please explain a little bit what is this concept?
Yeah, absolutely. Near futurist, I've been calling myself this for a few years. I've really kind of been leaning into it a bit more in the past 6 months or so. And I think it's resonating a lot more for people because um, the future is coming at us so fast, right? That my stance is that the traditional practice of futurism, where people look further into the future, even the practice of foresight, as it's often practiced, is no longer enough because things are just coming so fast that prediction doesn't give us any time to do anything, right? I mean, the real useful way of engaging with what's emerging is to look at, as I do, look at what's emerging as possible today and how to translate that into immediate value, practical value, for brands and businesses and even for individuals. So that's what near futurism is about. The near future. Sometimes near future means a couple years out if you're really doing a larger scale kind of effort. But sometimes it means this week, next week,
Yeah.
because
So,
things are happening so
so
fast.
if you're a company leader, you have to work with these concepts to make the strategic planning.
Yes. Yes.
And do you think the leaders of the organizations are aware of the importance of applying futurism in their organizations?
I think so. I think most are. It's challenging because I think businesses are just not designed to respond so rapidly to this kind of change. I mean, the volume and the level and the rate of change, I think, that we're seeing now is so out of line with how fast businesses tend to evolve. I mean, even technology businesses. I mean, even businesses like Google, say, or Apple. I mean, they're having trouble keeping up. With how fast things are moving, and so it's no surprise that many more traditional businesses, even CPGs or manufacturing or retail or healthcare, I mean, they're having trouble. But really, the simple way that I describe, like, to engage with the near future is, and this is my bias as a technologist, and that grew up professionally as a software engineer. I studied computer science and philosophy, and so I've been spent the first half of my career really building software, leading teams that build software, and then the last 12 years or so, I've been really focused on doing more high level concept design and kind of innovation architecture, as I described there. Um, but as a technologist, I'm really focused on, again, like identifying possibilities that are represented by new tools or new technologies, and then moving really quickly to say, okay, here's something that's possible. Let's connect this with some need or problem that a business has, right? And connect those dots as quickly as possible so that we can have hypotheses. Like, if we did this thing, we would expect there to be this benefit to the customer or to the business, and then prototype that hypothesis, right? And the mode of engagement that I always want to be in with clients is coming up with ideas that we can prototype and test. And have that be the mode of operation. Of course, you still need to keep your existing business model running, but you always want to have this kind of portfolio of hypotheses you're testing, and the tools that are emerging now, AI, also spatial computing tools, also other emerging technologies. But it makes this prototyping and testing really so much easier than it used to be.
What's the concept of ecosystem paradigm?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I had this realization. It was kind of during the pandemic. But I've been doing work, as Ronaldo mentioned, in my bio at this, I describe it as the convergence of digital and physical for many years, right? I described doing software engineering and software development for a long time. And then, almost 10 years ago, I started working with a large global architecture firm, Gensler, and ran digital experience design there. And so that gave me the opportunity, and I really got brought into this role because of my enthusiasm and vision for what digital can do in a physical space, right? It's not just about putting screens on walls and then making video run on those screens, but what else can digital do when it's in a space? Can it tell, you know, how many people are in an area, like how close you are to a certain thing, like how people are moving, you know, what can digital be in a space? And so I reference that now just to say I've been thinking about how digital and physical come together for a long time, and I've been using this language of convergent brand ecosystems, which is my own phrase, but it's really about bringing digital and physical together. Brand ecosystems you can just think of as all the different components that go into how a brand shows up in the world, right? So, I mean, if you think of any brand, like any kind of CPG brand, maybe it's a I was talking to someone from Nestle the other day, actually Nestle in Brazil, so I mean Nestle has all kinds of food and beverage products, right? Each one of those may have a brand, and so that brand can show up in terms of everything from a logo and a visual design and a package design and advertising campaign material and all kinds of other things that go into that brand. And we can think of those as pieces of an ecosystem that work together, that kind of live in a state of connectedness, right? So bringing that to ecosystem paradigm, I've been thinking of it this way about how brands and businesses operate as this ecosystem model for years. And in the pandemic, of course, we suddenly were disconnected from each other and from so many things and places that we relied on, right? And so it really caused me to just have create this much greater clarity about how connected everything is and how disruptive it is for things to not be connected. Obviously, supply chains, obviously communication, obviously travel, but also just it's much deeper than that. So I just had this aha moment, this idea moment where I was like, we are raised in the West to think of the world as these named separate people, places, and things, like sure, Renato, you're Marcel, I'm Neil, like, and this is a table, and this is this room, and from when we're babies, our parents train us. The first things we say to our kids are like, doggy, table, TV, like the world is named things. It's named things. And that works to a certain level. I mean, it makes science work, it makes technology work, and it also has many drawbacks that we think of the world as these separate things. So I thought, what if we could see the world as inherently connected? What if we could see that everything is connected in the world? Because I really think it is. That things are much more deeply connected than we realize. So I realize that's a little bit of a long answer, but I'm telling you the story of how I arrived at this. And so the last few years, I've been thinking and writing and speaking about, I call it the ecosystem paradigm, which is just moving from this paradigm of distinction or paradigm where we see interact with the world like it's separate things to one where we see the world and operate like we assume things are connected and we engage with them as if they're connected and even look for connections, like look for how are these people connected? How is this behavior and this desire and this purchase connected? Or how, because these things are connected, what else is possible? It sounds abstract. I mean, even the word paradigm, some people are like, what does paradigm mean? But it's really just a set of ideas or assumptions we think about the world that informs how we engage with it. And so I'm finding that this is really useful from a consulting perspective, like when I work with businesses and look at the whole business model, thinking about all the points of connection is really powerful for creating solutions.
Most of people that doesn't know the power of the VR, AR, and spatial computing thinks only about games. But in your opinion, how the most impact this kind of technologies can do in our lives or our business?
Yeah. So, I mean, spatial computing, I think, has now become a term that more people are using thanks to Apple's new Vision Pro, right? That's what Apple's decided to call it, spatial computer. And it's a term that's been around for a long time, but I mean, that's what's brought the term into the public conversation more. And yes, there's a lot of immersive gaming. VR has done that. VR has also been used even more successfully from a commercial perspective as a training approach, right? Most of the large companies in the world now are using VR for training workers. It's very useful for that. But spatial computing, another huge benefit of it is the ability to place digital content and objects at specific locations in physical space so that you can see them, you know, using augmented reality on a phone, for example, uh, and also using glasses or a headset. Although most of these headsets that we see now, whether it's Meta's Quest or Apple's Vision Pro, those are not things that you wear out in the world. They're not designed for outdoor use. Of course, the phone people use everywhere, and I spent a lot of last year working with a spatial computing tech startup called Alki Labs, and that company was building a general purpose way of setting up a coordinate system in a space that you can then, using only QR codes, arrive in the space, scan the QR code, and then the phone is in this invisible 3D coordinate system and then can see digital content, digital labels, digital 3D objects that have location in the space. Like there could be things over on a table or behind that podium or up against this wall. And all of that is very useful in the context of retail stores or uh, warehouses, other kinds of places where, like retail is a good example because both people who work in retail and need to restock or clean up messes or figure out what should go where, placing digital content in that 3D space can be very helpful, right, for communication and for guidance and so on. And then for shoppers, and this has been a use case that's coming for a while, being able to quickly find without a store associate, without a human to help you, you can find, where if you're in a grocery store, where's the milk, where is the Nestle chocolate, where is the whatever. Um, and then see promotional information, discount information, shopper marketing kinds of things are really useful. So this is much easier to understand if I had a visual, um, but hopefully that makes sense. If you just think of, and Mark Zuckerberg has actually talked about this a few times over the past few years, is that when you think generally about spatial computing, which is really just about giving computers an understanding of the physical structure of our spaces, right, and of physical objects. It means that instead of all the digital content happening in this flat 2D context, it can start to show up in physical context in the world. And a lot of information is so much easier to understand when it's in physical context. Like I'm looking at this chair over here right now. Even if I describe to you something about the color or the shape of that chair in the abstract, you would have some idea of that in your mind. But if I showed you in the context of that chair, when you're in front of it, it'd be much easier to understand because it's about that object. You know what I mean? So connecting digital with physical is a huge value.
Yeah, it got us closer to the reality because the concept of owning the metaverse and talking about the new generation of gadgets. Do you believe next Vision Pro or something like that could be like a PCI interface, not inside the brain, but something that works directly on your brain instead of using the eyes?
Yes, is a short answer. And I think that some very smart people are working on this.
Yeah.
It's a bit scary.
Yeah,
I'd say.
that's it.
And I have people that I've worked with over the past year who feel like augmented reality, the kinds of things we were just talking about, the digital objects in physical space, is one step away from direct brain interfaces, right? In other words, they're talking about the communication value of putting information next to a physical thing or in physical context. But theoretically, anyway, and even better, even more precise way to communicate would be if our brains could just be directly connected. Because language is very imprecise, really. If I say to you, I'm thinking of a black cat with a white stripe. You have some image of a black cat with a white stripe, but it's not exactly the one that I have, right? We know it's in this, it's roughly the same, but we might not, if we drew it, it's not the same thing. Language is never going to get us there, but some people have the idea that direct brain interfaces could get us there. So I don't know if you're thinking about BCI for communication or for control of things. I mean, a lot of people have been working on BCI for, like
For helping disabled people.
there's actually
Yeah, moving some mouse or your direction, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can use it again a mobile or a computer. But it's dangerous, because when you have your cellular, your phone, you can leave it and you go ahead. But if it's inside of you, then this is not dangerous about privacy, about mental control, about subjective thoughts. What do you think about
It is dangerous.
it?
Short answer. I mean, it's there's a whole conversation about cognitive liberty, right?
Yeah.
Like freedom of thought, freedom to think what you want to think. And you could certainly imagine that having something that interfaces with your brain could constrain what you can think. I mean, it could have an impact on what you're able to think. And to be fair, we do have constraints already on what we can think, right? I mean, at a basic level, it's true that we can only think. It's not entirely true, but it's almost entirely true that we can think what we have words for. Like the things we don't have words for, we can't really think about because we think in language, right? And so this is why it's so valuable, I know, and I'm not there yet, but to have to be multilingual, right? If you can speak multiple languages, you can think more things because there are different things that are thinkable in different languages, right? So I think we understand that already as humans. I mean, but interfacing directly with the source of thought, with the brain, has the potential to, like I'm saying, really control or constrain what we're able to think. And there's a way in which attention-driven, it's like social media is today, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, like tools like this, are already designed to kind of control what we think in the sense that even just simply showing you more of what you're engaging with is a way of keeping you focused on that kind of content and that kind of idea,
Like an addiction.
like an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we already have tools that kind of, we might say we still have the ability to turn it off or put it down. But it's also fair to say that as an addiction, I mean,
You can, but you don't do it.
the word addiction, I think, means, right, that it's very hard, and people might say it's impossible to stop. Like, we might want to stop, but we can't stop, right? It's very hard to stop. And so, but that's by design, right? That's how these tools are designed, because they make money when they're paying attention. And so, you just imagine the direct brain interfaces. We're all saying the same kind of thing in that it's just, it feels very dangerous.
But truly, we can't avoid it. We have to deal with it because it will happen.
I think so, and I think it will happen. I kind of generally feel like everything that can happen will happen. I mean, humans are driven by curiosity to just let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. And there's always going to be some smart, obsessed person or people who just want to do some crazy thing and want to make it happen, right? And they will make it happen. So, to me, the optimistic way to think about this is that it's forcing public and society level conversations about these things that are. Yesterday, we had a black rabbit, not black rabbit, white rabbit.
White rabbit, Vanessa and Luciana.
Black rabbit is a different thing. So a white rabbit.
It's cute too.
You have to have diversity.
Yeah,
Diversity also in rabbits.
It's true. Rabbits have diversity issues too. DEI for rabbits. Now what was I saying? Oh, someone raised a question of see, my mind's been controlled. Now I'm just thinking about rabbits. I'm thinking about rabbits and the colors of rabbits.
Elon Musk, you're right.
We were talking about cognitive liberty and freedom of thought.
That's it.
Brain computer interfaces.
And I have to ask you or said to you that it's not avoid. we cannot avoid about this. And you said about you were talking about with some people in White Rabbit and
Yes, yes. White Rabbit meetup, and yeah, I don't remember what the point was. It'll come back. But I mean, you know, these are all they're challenging issues. Oh, I guess the thing we were talking about yesterday is that someone raised the point that these large language models, these AI tools, are often uh, showing. This person used a specific example of someone in Brazil used a tool and a prompt, gave the prompt something like a powerful black girl in a favela, right? And every image that came back had chip gun. Right?
Yeah.
And
Bias.
this person was saying, this is a problem. We don't want these tools to be showing girls with guns.
Yeah.
Right. And then someone else in the room said, but that's the reality. Like the reality is kids in the favelas often have guns, and
Yeah. True.
it is so that means it's part of the training material that these models get. There are understandable reasons why kids have guns. It's like they legitimately may need to protect themselves. It's a dangerous place. But really, this other person in the room was making a point that these tools are just showing us the reality that we live in already. And so the challenge is,
if you want to finish your thoughts.
Sorry by that.
I guess at the end of the thought there was just that these tools, particularly AI models, machine learning models, are just holding up a mirror to us as humans, right? It's like they're trained on material that reflects actual human activity, actual human behavior, and this person just made the point that the problem is not the tool, it's not the AI. The problem is human behavior. Like we need to solve life in favelas, we need to solve violence, we need to solve like taking care of people, and the same kind of thing is true with these tools. Without human reinforcement or human guidance, you know, it's often pointed out also like if someone types in a prompt that says the doctor, everything is always going to be a man, right? Even though there are female doctors, right? Well, it's because most doctors are men or have been, or that's what the training data set is. And so this is why I'm saying I think it's useful to think of it. It's just a mirror. Like you show up in front of a mirror, you look at yourself, and like, I don't like this. I'm going to change something about this. My hair's not right. My face isn't right. But then that's information that you can use to change.
The problem is not with the mirror.
Yeah, the mirror is just showing you what's there.
Yeah, the reality.
So
And
I
that
think,
the example that you said, the black girls in favela regions, is related to the quality of data. We have this reality in Brazil. It's true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it's true.
Yeah.
So we have to change not the software, the algorithms, but the quality of data. And for we have better data, we have to improve the quality of the life of the people from favela.
Yeah. So I guess I feel optimistic about it. That's a long way of saying I'm optimistic that these tools kind of focus our attention on some aspects of the reality that we create that need some attention. That that can help us. Like if we don't like what we see in the mirror, right, then there's some work for us to do.
Perfect. One last message. Do you believe in a utopic world or a dystopic world, or neither of them?
I think it's like a false dichotomy, meaning I do think reality is what we create together. I don't know that there's any perfection or a perfect world, but I do think what we have on this planet, like we have all the resources that we need to actually create a great life for almost everybody. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us to come together as humanity and really do that. And it might sound like a very easy thing to say or just some pie in the sky or like this, but you know, I'm encouraged by the fact that I think it's only been very recently that humans have started to operate at a global level. I mean, even though we've had 600 years of like the age of exploration, right? I mean, starting in 1492 in Portugal, um, it's really it's really just been in the past 30, 40 years, I think, that have really started to think more globally, instant global media. We have global TV and satellite TV and then the internet. And I think we're just starting to think of ourselves as a global species, as a global entity, think of the planet as being made of these ecosystems that we're all interdependent with. So I feel like we can be given a little bit of patience. Like in some ways we don't have that much time and we've got to solve certain big problems now, but um, I would say I'm optimistic. Maybe I don't know about utopia, dystopia. I do think, I mean, dystopia usually refers to stories. And I do think we need to stop telling so much dystopian stories. You know, I think we can do much better at telling stories because stories create reality.
Yeah.
And this is why, like I mentioned Star Trek. I love Star Trek because it is not. It's not without violence. There is violence. There is conflict, but people engage productively with that. It's like the assumption is that I mean, the whole narrative of Star Trek is that we live to better ourselves, right? It's post money, it's post scarcity, it's we come together. Federation,
The
certainly,
Federation, yeah.
is about, you know, and Jean-Luc Picard says this in one of the early films, you know, that we live to better ourselves. Like that's the goal, and which is moving to me. I find it a beautiful summary of like if money is no longer a thing, if everyone has what they need, then well, we live to better ourselves, and we keep discovering what it means to better ourselves.
Like Star Trek, you don't have to conquer new worlds. You have to explore new worlds and make a better universe.
Yes. Well
Thank
said.
you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much, man.